So this month, the Witcher Netflix show will finally be upon us. I am actually looking forward to watching this show because I'm just a big fan of The Witcher in general. If you didn't already know that, I love the games, I've read the books, I play Gwent all the time, I study the lore of the world and the characters, and I find the stories really fascinating, and I just love the characters that Andrzej Sapkowski has created for us. So more recently in Witcher Netflix news, the Twitter account for The Witcher Netflix has revealed all 8 episode titles, and they also created this little short descriptions for each episode in this really cool poetic form on their Twitter. And I actually love how they did this. I think this is a really cool idea, and it also gets us big fans of the books a way to kind of get a better idea of what each of these episodes might be about according to the books. So in preparation for the show, I figured I would do my own little interpretation of each of these episode titles and the little description that they gave us, and try to tell you all which books or which stories that these episodes may correlate with from the books into the show. Minnie. Okay, you may hear my cat meowing a bit in the background as she's walking around. Minnie. Okay, I'm sorry. So I guess before we get into this, I should make a note that there will be some very light spoilers to the books. I'm just going to be explaining a few scenes within the books. So you should be fine to watch. It's going to be very vague, and there's not going to be any intense spoilers or anything like that. But if you yourself are a person who likes to go into things completely blind and don't want any sort of info or anything like that, I would say maybe this video isn't for you, but for everybody else, this is going to be very, very light spoilers, nothing to worry about. So before we dive into each of the episodes, there are a few things that I want to explain. Thing one, the show is definitely taking all of its inspiration from book 1 and book 2 of the Witcher series. So that is The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny. Now these 2 books are actually kind of like prequels to the main Witcher saga. They were published, I believe, actually after some of the main Witcher books. So these 2 are actually, I would guess, yeah, they would be prequels to it. And they're actually not full novels. They're a compilation of short stories that tell different tales of Geralt and how he meets Yen and Ciri. And so this isn't a full story, but these are actually short stories. So that'll make things easier when I'm explaining each episode for which short story that it correlates with. So point number 2, the showrunners have already expressed many times that they will be taking a lot of liberties on the show, which is obviously to be expected in any movie or TV show adaptation of a book. The showrunners, they always take their own liberties, which I think is fine in this case. We already know that there's going to be some completely new characters introduced that were not in the books, and I believe that we'll also be seeing some things that are only very lightly touched on in the books, like Geralt's past and Yennefer's history becoming a sorceress. Those things are only brought up very mildly in the books, but I think that the showrunners are going to basically flesh this out a lot in the actual show. And point number 3, according to IMDb, Geralt, Yen, and Ciri are casted to be in all 8 episodes of The Witcher Netflix. But the short stories in The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny mostly just follow Geralt's path and his journey. They don't touch that much on Ciri and Yen, only in a few of the stories. So I think that these episodes are going to be multi-story paths of what Geralt's doing, what Yen's doing, and what Ciri's doing before they all meet up and everything like that. Okay, so with all of that said, let's go ahead and dive into the episodes. So episode 1, The End's Beginning. A monster slain, a butcher named. So this one is pretty obvious what the story is going to be. This is going to be the short story, The Lesser Evil from Book 1, The Last Wish. This is a very, very popular story where Geralt gets his infamous title, the Butcher of Blaviken. So that is where the description, a butcher named, that's clearly obvious that it's referring to that. The monster slain part is probably referring to the Kikimora that he slays in the beginning of the story. We don't really get details of how that happens. We just see him kind of waltzing into Blaviken with this monster looking for money. I believe in the trailer we've already seen a little glimpse of Geralt fighting this monster-like spider thing, which I can only assume is the Kikimora that is in this story. So that's probably what episode 1 is going to be about. Episode 2, 4 Marks. We look at a sorceress's earlier days. Again, this one is kind of straightforward of what the story is going to be about. This will probably heavily touch on Yennefer's origin, how she became a sorceress, I'm assuming, and everything like that. So in the books, we never get a full story on how Yennefer became this amazing sorceress. We kind of see little stories here and there of what she, of who she was and what she's become, but we never get the full picture. So I definitely think this episode will take a lot of their own liberties of what Yennefer's real origin story was all about. So from what we've already seen in the trailer, there are some shots of younger Yennefer with her trainer Tissaia. We saw a shot of Thanedd Island where sorceresses are trained. So this episode probably will touch on a lot of that. On Geralt's side of the story, we have reason to believe that this episode will touch on the short story The Edge of the World, which is a story about Dandelion and Geralt on an adventure that involves meeting some really, really cool elves, Filavandrel, Teruviel, etc. Episode 3, Betrayer Moon, a picky eater, a family shamed. So this one, I believe, is The Witcher. That's the title of the short story in The Last Wish. It's like the first full short story within the book. This story is where Geralt first meets King Foltest, and he removes the curse of the Striga on Princess Ada. Episode 4 of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials. The Law of Surprise is how one repays. This one is also very straightforward. Being that they mention the Law of Surprise, this definitely is a question of price, which is another short story in The Last Wish. This is where Geralt goes to Sintra and he meets Queen Calanthe, and it's actually a very, very important short story because it tells of the Law of Surprise. Sintra is a very important region through the entire Witcher series, and everything that we learn within this short story is very, very important to what ties Geralt and Ciri together and ties their fate and their destiny together. I won't go too much into explaining what the Law of Surprise is, as it's not really touched on a lot in the games, but it's a huge story element for the actual Witcher books, and it's one of the main reasons why it is the main reason why Geralt and Ciri are tied together. I believe, like, in the games, we're very much led to believe that Geralt is so attached to Ciri because she's a child of the Elder Blood, and, you know, she essentially has the power to save the world from the Wild Hunt and the White Frost. But in the books, we really understand why Geralt and Ciri their fates are so connected together, and that is because of the Law of Surprise, and that's something I think will be heavily touched on. If not in some of the earlier episodes, definitely we'll understand what it is in this episode. Episode 5, Bottled Appetites. A fateful meeting, a bard is maimed. This one, again, I think is very straightforward, that this is going to be The Last Wish, the title story in The Last Wish book. So The Last Wish is the name of the short story within the book The Last Wish. Again, this is like one of the most popular, important, most well-known stories in The Witcher. This is the fateful meeting of Geralt and Yen and how their destinies are bound together. Again, if you've played the games, The Last Wish is the name of a quest that you do with Yennefer that has a lot to do with the story within the books. So it's really important, and I highly, highly recommend you at least read that short story, The Last Wish. Episode 6, Rare Species. The hunt for a dragon is underway. Whew, this episode. Whew, okay. So this is gonna be a good one. This is the short story, The Bounds of Reason, which is the first short story in the second book, Sword of Destiny. This short story happens to be one of my personal favorites. I won't get too much into detail of what the story is because I don't want to spoil it, but it does involve a dragon. And it is just, oh, it's one of my favorite short stories. So that's definitely what this episode is going to be about. Episode 7, Before a Fall. A return to Before a Kingdom is Flamed. This is probably some lead up to the Battle of Sodden Hill and the Fall of Sintra. I don't know exactly what short story I would tie this to, as it's brought up a few times in some of the later short stories of Sword of Destiny. But we have seen in the trailers a lot of this big battle, big fighting, the Nilfgaard attacking. This is probably going to be a lot in this episode leading into the final episode, this big battle and the fall of Sintra. And episode 8, Much More. The Witcher family, as you all like to say. This title definitely alludes to something more, the final short story of Sword of Destiny. So I don't know if maybe, episode 7 leading into episode 8 will involve this big huge battle and depict the fall of Sintra and all of the fallout that happens following that. These episodes will probably have something to do with that. And something more is a very emotional story. So prepare your tissues for this one. It's gonna be a good season finale for sure. So that's it for my rundown of all of the episodes. As a note, there's probably gonna be nodes to some of the other short stories within these episodes. For example, we see the Dryads of Brokilon, we see Istrid, the mage with Yennefer. So there's gonna be a lot. And there's gonna be a lot to take in, and it should be good. So hopefully I'll be able to record some more videos like this once the actual show does come out. I would love to talk more about the episodes, break them down, talk about how they correlate to the books, because that stuff just gets me all excited and nerdy and stuff. Ooh. So I hope you guys like this video. If you yourself want to discuss more, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below. I might be wrong about some of my interpretations. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's gonna be good. And I hope you guys enjoy watching the Witcher Netflix show this month. Be sure to tweet at me and message me and tell me all of your thoughts, because I'm gonna be having a lot of thoughts too. We'll see how it goes. And thank you everybody for watching. Minnie also says goodbye, and she says sorry for meowing so much in the background of this video. Okay, bye-bye.